Hey guys, we're back with some more whitetail content, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the top 5 places to find sheds. If you guys are new to the channel and you like what you see, please consider subscribing and giving us a thumbs up. But let's dive right into it. The first place to focus on when you're looking for sheds is probably the most obvious one, and that's a winter food source. Deer change where they feed throughout the year. Where they feed in the summer is different than where they feed in the fall, and where they feed in the fall is different than where they feed in the winter months. So you need to try to locate where the deer are feeding on your property during February and March, when they're most likely to drop their antlers. So that might be a late cut cornfield or bean field where the deer are still coming out to eat the spillage. Maybe you have a brassica plot, winter hardy clover if the snow is not too deep, cereal rye. Anywhere where the deer are feeding on your property during February and March, that's where you kind of want to key in on for their food source, where they're most likely to drop their antlers. Another great spot to find whitetail sheds would be a bedding area. And much like how the food sources change from summer to fall to winter, so do the bedding areas. So you don't necessarily always want to focus on where the deer are bedding on your property in the fall, but make sure you're focusing on where the deer are bedding in February and March. All right, so this one's gonna come across as pretty obvious, but we have to cover it anyways, and that's that you have to walk your deer trails. If you were just walking around the woods randomly, the chances that you're gonna find an antler are pretty low. So to increase your odds, you have to walk where the deer walk. And an easy way to do this would be to start where the deer are feeding and take those trails, walk them back all the way to where the deer are bedding. Or you can do the opposite and start where the deer are bedding and take those trails all the way to where the deer are feeding. But bottom line is, to increase your odds at finding sheds, you gotta be where the deer are, so walk those deer trails. When we're trying to find sheds on our property, this is one of the spots that we key in on. It is a deer trail that kind of runs through all this Multiflora Rose. It's basically like a tangled mess of thorns. So when the deer move through here, especially the bucks, when their antlers knock into that stuff, if they're ready to drop, that could be what it takes to knock them off. So anytime you have a trail that goes through thick cover, it doesn't have to be Multiflora Rose, but anything that's thick cover where the bucks would have to knock their antlers against something, focus in on that and you have a higher chance of locating some antlers. All right, so this one is kind of a 3 for 1, but they're all kind of the same concept. And that's when a buck has to jump over something, and then the landing could be what shakes his antlers loose. So what we have here is a deer trail that runs through our property, and we have this down tree. And if the buck would jump over this and land on the other side, the impact could be enough to shake his antlers loose. So what you really want to look for is anytime a buck would have to jump over something, and the higher he has to jump, the harder he comes down, the greater the impact, the greater chance his antlers fall off if they're ready. So what you want to try to look for is if you have a ditch system that runs through your property, maybe a fence row that the deer have to jump over, or a creek. All those things are great places to look for antlers if you kind of know where the deer cross. If you don't, you can just walk those things up and down, and you have a higher probability of finding antlers, because when the deer jump and land, it very well could shake the antlers loose. Well guys, that's basically it. It really boils down to just keying in on the spots where you know the deer are on your property from February and March. If you think we missed anything, please feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to hear where you guys are finding sheds, but those were my top 5 places to find whitetail sheds.